Hey everyone! In today's video, I'm going to be upcycling a pair of skinny jeans, and I'm going to show you how to give them a fresh modern update. So don't toss out those skinny jeans just yet. I'll take relaxed and baggy style over skinnies any day, whether they're in style or not. Once you go relaxed, you really can't go back. You know what I mean? Let's get started. All right, here's what you're going to need for this upcycle. I'm working here with two pairs of skinny jeans. One will be the main pair that I'm going to be widening, and the other one's going to be used for the extra fabric. I'll be widening these from the hips down. As you can see, I have a pair that's very distressed. I'm not a fan of these distressed jeans with holes in them, so I'm going to use this one for my extra fabric. And this one's going to be the pair of jeans that I'm going to be upcycling that I'll be wearing. So I've picked these two because I like the color contrast between these two colors. And also I made sure that I have enough length in the distressed jeans here to cover the amount of length I need to widen my pair that I'm going to be wearing. So just make sure that you're going to have enough fabric. And I'm just matching here at the side seams up to where the hip level is. And as you can see, I definitely have enough length in these jeans to use them for the extra fabric. Okay, so now next what I'm going to do is I'm going to decide where I want to start widening my jeans. So I'm going to begin just around the widest part of the hip line so that the flare or the width starts in a natural spot. And this is going to balance out really nicely with my shape. And I think a lot of people's, because you don't want to start too high, you don't want to start too low. It depends how relaxed you want it. You could start lower if you like them to be a little bit tighter around the thighs, but I want the relaxed feel throughout my thighs. So I'm starting right at the hip line. So I'm just taking a heat erasable pen here and I'm just marking the spot where I want to start widening my jeans from. Make sure you mark both sides of your jeans. Now, after you've marked where you want to start widening them, take your seam ripper and you'll start seam ripping very carefully. Open up the side seams all the way up to that mark that you made on the hip line. But make sure you go slow with this step because denim can fray or stretch if you rush it. So take your time here. I've sped up the video, obviously, so you guys don't have to watch me do this, but I did go pretty carefully. And I want to make sure I don't rip the jeans and I don't have to make a bunch of mistakes. The less mistakes you make, the better. Of course, we're all going to make mistakes. I do it all the time, but most mistakes you can fix. But let's just try to avoid them if we can. Now, once I have seam ripped both sides, I'm going to lay these out flat and I'm going to measure that distance so I know how much I need to cut for the extra fabric on the other jeans. So make sure you lay it out very nice and flat first. Next, go ahead and measure that distance from the hip line down to the bottom hem and write that measurement down. We'll need to match that up when we cut our inserts from our other pair of jeans. So I have here 26 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and get my distressed jeans here and I'm going to measure up from the hem up to wherever 26 inches is, and then I'm going to mark that spot. All right, so now with the leg folded, I'm gonna go ahead and measure about 3 inches out at the bottom where the hem is. That's gonna give me 2.5 inches in the front, 2.5 inches in the back. That's gonna give me about 5 inches extra width in the bottom. And you can choose to do as much as you want depending on how wide you want your jeans to be when you're finished. And then I'm doing 3 inches because I want to add a 1/2 inch of seam allowance on each side of this insert since this is folded. So I'm actually measuring out 3 inches from the side seam. And then once I've marked that position, I'm going to go ahead and combine these two marks that I've made from the hem to that hip line. All right, so once I've marked both the hem and the hip line, I'm going to go ahead and connect those with a diagonal line, and make sure you add a 1/2 inch seam allowance at the very top as well. Don't go to 0 at the top. So you should start 1/2 inch out from the outside edge all the way down to 3 inches or whatever width you decided to do it at. But always give yourself some room for seam allowance at the top where you marked it at the hip. Once I've drawn out that diagonal line from the bottom of the hip, I'm going to go ahead and cut along that line, and that's going to be my insert panel. Now, to make sure that both sides match perfectly, use that first piece as your pattern for the second one. Just pin it directly to the other leg of the jeans and cut around it. That way your two pieces are as close to identical as possible. This is going to help your finished jeans look clean and balanced on both sides. Before sewing anything to your jeans, it's really important to finish the raw edges of your insert pieces. Again, denim frays really easily, so this step keeps your project neat and long lasting. I'll be using my serger to finish the edges, but if you don't have one, you can absolutely use a zigzag stitch on your regular sewing machine instead. Both methods work great. The goal is just to seal those raw edges. And I have my knife turned off on my serger because I don't want to cut anything. I gave myself just a 1/2 inch for the seam allowance, and I'll be using that. So all I'm doing is finishing the raw edges here. And here I'm opening the bottom hem so that I can serge all the way to the bottom. I did forget to do that in the initial step, but I can do it now, which is fine. So I'm going to make sure I do that on all 4 sides. Make sure that you open up that hem and you go ahead and serge all the way to that edge. Sometimes these are chain stitches on jeans and they're pretty easy to open, and sometimes they're not. So just make sure you carefully seam rip open that so that you don't tear your hem. Now it's time to attach your inserts. Place your insert panel right sides together with your jeans and match the bottom hem and your hip line mark. Pin or clip it in place, then sew along the edge using that 1/2 inch or whatever seam allowance you gave yourself all the way down each of the sides of the panels. So I'm going to start here with one side and just work my way up this panel, and then I'll be going to my machine and just doing a straight stitch all the way across the panel, and I'm going to repeat it on all 4 sides. Now make sure that you're using the right needle. This is kind of crucial when you're sewing denim. So here I'm just using a jeans needle, which is a size 18. Just read the label and you can get these on Amazon or wherever you get your needles. So as you can see, I'm just going to carefully go through and I'm just straight stitching this at a 2.5 stitch length all the way up this panel. So I'm just repeating on the other side of the panel here, the same side of the jean, but the different side of the panel. And now it gets a little bit tricky when I get to this edge here because I may have done a little bit over that 1/2 inch seam allowance. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure that I line up the edge of that center seam. So here, maybe I can show you guys a little bit close up. I seam ripped open part of it to fix this so that it matches up better. So make sure you see that center right there matches the center seam of the panel. And I'm going to pin these together and I'm just going to sew from that center seam diagonally and meet the edge of my seam on each side of this. So let's see if I can show you guys kind of a close-up so you get the idea. This is the only tricky part, to be honest with you. So now I'm just going to re-sew that top part and I'm going to sew it all the way up to the very edge of where the 2 seams meet here. So I'm going to have a little bit of extra fabric, which I'm okay with because I'll just serge that away later. So I think next time if I did this, I'll make sure that I don't have so much seam allowance at the top of my insert. I was being extra cautious and I ended up cutting a little bit too wide on the top. So make sure that you backstitch as well. So I'm going all the way to the center and then just backstitch a few times to reinforce that seam here. And then I'm just going to repeat it on the other side. So it's just a little bit of a change here at the very top just to make sure those seams do match each other. Okay, now here for the final step. Remember, we had to seam rip the hem. Now we need to make sure we go ahead and blend those two hems of the side panel and the main jean together. And since it was already folded, it's fine. Cut away any extra thread that you may have left behind to clean it up, of course. And then I'm just going to carefully sew back the hem through the area that I had seam ripped open, and that finishes the side. And now I'm just going to go ahead and repeat this whole process on the other leg of my jeans. And here's how those panels are looking. So the next thing we want to do is just to go ahead and give it this a very nice press and try them on and see how they look. I was very, very happy with the results of these jeans. I'm definitely going to be wearing these. I just absolutely love them. They look so much better on me now with the wider leg. They're much more flattering. Guys, I hope you guys try this technique. It looks really fashionable. I haven't even really styled this right now, but I can see myself wearing this so many different ways. If you enjoyed this video and you watched it all, please hit that subscribe button and like my videos so I can continue to make this type of content. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.